Well, I put some of my thoughts down in writing. There's a new Substack that'll hopefully be coming out later today that talks about this event and the linkage with Ukraine and the consequences thereof. Um, but no, it's this is a big deal. It's interesting that that same BBC reporter who sanctimoniously was reporting there as if he somehow gave a damn, is one of the people that in stories that he publishes, um, you know, in addition to this, just gives absolute short shrift to the Russian point of view, the Russian perspective, etc. And is part of the crowd that is trying to turn this into some sort of anti-Putin event. It just shows the level of ignorance that exists. If anything, this tragedy made Russia more unified, stronger, more resilient, and for the people who perpetrated, who were behind this, there will be hell to pay. And one of the things I'm afraid of is that there might be American fingerprints on this attack, and there will be hell to pay for those who put their fingerprints there.
All right, so we'll look forward to that new post coming on Substack later. The address is scottritterextra.com, so check it out and please subscribe while you're there. This is the lightning round of Ask the Inspector. We do it every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for an hour, and Scott answers every question in 3 minutes or less. Friday night is the loquacious version for 2 hours, and Scott answers everything much more extensively. We will not have our usual episode this coming Friday, but we'll be back the following week, as usual, Tuesday and Friday. The first question is from Alibek Nazarov in Moscow. How would you react to the Crocus attack if you were the Russian president?
I would react by showing leadership to the Russian people, by expressing my absolute sorrow for what happened. I would assure the Russian people that, the government is there in control, and that, the government will take care of the victims of this attack, and that the government will hold those who perpetrated the attack accountable for their actions. And then I would insist on a very immediate and thorough investigation that provided me with all the facts necessary for me to make appropriate follow-on decisions.
Okay, next question is from, well, hang on a second. Let me stop the clock first of all. Next question is from Michael in Portsmouth, England. Do you think the reaction to what Putin will do is similar to the same scenario Netanyahu has had happen to his people on October 7th? How do you compare the two?
Oh, there's no comparison whatsoever. October 7th was a reaction of an occupied people against an illegal occupier. It's linked to decades of wrongdoing by Israel against the Palestinian people. So there's just literally no linkage whatsoever. The terrorist attack on Moscow has no such, any incomparable activity. It's an act perpetrated by a Ukrainian government that wanted this war, that pushed for this war, that got this war, and now things aren't going well for them, and they are reaching out to carry out. If they can't win on the battlefield, they're going to try and win off the battlefield. But there's no linkage whatsoever between Netanyahu and October 7th and what happened in Moscow.
Next question is from Alex Jones fan. Alex Jones has woken up, I don't know if that's correct grammar, but whatever, and is speaking like you about Russia and Gaza. Would you please go on his show and educate his audience more?
Gladly. They invite me, I'll say yes.
This Alex Jones fan may not know that you've been on at least a couple of times in the past few months. So
yeah, it's not an unknown occurrence.
Right. And in fact, I was with my favorite weapons inspector when Scott was in the studio in Austin a few months ago. So anyway, but maybe he knows that and he just wants you on more, as he says. The next question is from Arena in Germany. The EU announced that it's establishing a weapons production facility in Ukraine. They can't possibly think that Russia will not target those plants during the conflict. So what's the purpose of such announcements?
It's a feel-good statement. The European Union, like NATO, like the United States, like everybody, is recognizing their impotence in the face of what is an inevitable Russian victory in Ukraine. This is a throwaway statement. I can't imagine there's any investor or any actual business that will say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go break ground in Ukraine. You might as well just dig a hole 6 feet deep and lay down in it and have them cover you up, because that's what the end result is going to be. This factory will never get off the ground. Anybody who's involved in the building of this factory will die. If I were the Russians, I'd let you break ground. I'd let you put in a couple $2 billion worth of manufacturing support, and then at the appropriate time, I would just take it out. Boom, and say start all over if you want. We can do this all day, but no, it's a joke.
Okay. We have a voicemail message from Gihan in Australia.
Hi, Scott and Jeff. My name is Gihan from Darwin, Australia, and I'd like to ask Scott to comment on Nasrallah of Hezbollah's words about telling the Palestinian people to stay strong because their resistance is hurting the Israeli army, and that Israel is actually falling apart economically as well. Can you please comment on that? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. Look, what Nasrallah is speaking is truth. The Israeli economy has been devastated by this conflict. The actions of the Houthi have caused, one of Israel's major ports, Eilat, to shut down. There's nothing coming in, nothing going out. In the north, Israel's had to evacuate the towns and villages, and in the north, so you have a huge refugee population that has to be accommodated. The same thing with the population that lived around Gaza. They've been evacuated. The jobs aren't happening, investments aren't happening. Israel had hinged its future on the India Middle East economic corridor that Israel was supposed to play an important connectivity role in. That's not happening. The Israelis are going bankrupt. Their economy is in tatters, and it's going to lead to depopulation as people flee Israel for safer places. The Israeli army is hurting very badly. They're demoralized, and they can't sustain the level of conflict that's the operational tempo that's been in place. So I think what he's saying is, you've come this far, you're near the finish line. Don't quit.
All right. I forgot to start the clock on that one, but I think you answered that in less than 3 minutes. So you don't even need me, Scott. You don't even need me. Dave from Olympia, the audience is not going, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Dave from Olympia, Washington. Why has Russia not destroyed or captured all of the CIA bases in Ukraine yet?
Well, how do you know they haven't destroyed them? I don't know where they are. Do you know where they are? So I'm not in a position to say 5 of the 12 bases have survived, because I don't know where any of the 12 bases physically are located. Russia might, and if they do, I imagine they've struck them, and then the Ukrainians and the CIA probably relocated them if they still have an operational value. You can only occupy the bases if they're located in territory that you occupy or in the process of occupying. Again, we don't know if the Russians have occupied any of these bases, and we don't know that if they have occupied them, that they know that they were that, because I would imagine that prior to being evacuated, that documents and evidence of covert activity would be eliminated. So who knows right now? But it doesn't matter. The CIA is engaged in helping Ukraine carry out activities of resistance against Russia, and they're a target, and Russia will target them and deal with them as they find them.
All right. How about the question that's on the screen right now? Why hasn't Putin made Ukraine a non-flying zone? Chris from London is asking.
Well, I think it's why does he need to make it a non-flying zone, and what benefit does he gain from it? What risks are entailed? To make it a non-flying zone would require you to maintain a combat air patrol over Ukraine continuously. That means that you're exposing your forces to anti-aircraft fire. And maybe Russia made the decision that the best way to use its air force isn't to get involved in a war for war's sake, but rather to use the air force to, achieve, more identifiable and quantifiable objectives, like dropping glide bombs on frontline positions, things of that nature, to preserve your airframes for any potential future expansion of the conflict. So I just don't think that Russia feels that a no-fly zone is worth the effort it would take to create it.
Okay, next question is from the Pope in Darwin, Australia. Following the relief of Mariupol by the Russians, it was claimed that retired U.S. Admiral Eric Olson was captured. Fact checkers claim this to be false, as they would, which implies that the opposite is true. Do you have any information on the current whereabouts of the retired admiral?
Well, gosh, using your philosophy, if I that's not Olson.
It's not. That's what the questioner submitted with his question. That's not him.
Right. But the fact that I'm saying it's not apparently means that it is, according to his logic.
I see.
No, that's not Olson. That's not how it works, guys. Olson would never be allowed to be put in that situation. He knows too much. He would never be exposed in that fashion, and it's just stupid. I don't mean that you're stupid, Mr. Pope. I'm saying that the notion that Olson was captured by the Ukrainians is, frankly speaking, just stupid.
यहाँ थियो होइन
त्यहाँबाट ल्याएको
खानेपानी हेर्दा बिर्को छैन है
खै बिर्केको
माथि बिर्को छैन
यस्तै थियो कि बोतलले
खानेपानी हेर्थ्यो